All right.
Yalla, as the signal flare goes up, it's time for some action. Back with the Impact Attack, and it's my faction, Dr. Manbeast MSG in the kayfabe action. Hacker Hamin right back on top, infidels, as we were kicked off, banned. You can't ban the hack, never. It's Bommy Hemer. I'm back, ready to rock you like Tommy Dreamer is tonight. So it's match time here on the Impact Attack, twitch.tv/Conspiracy Horseman, YouTube, Bin Hamin. Yalla. Yeah, man. EC Dub, Wrestle House, whatever you want to scream. It doesn't matter. Stick your arms out, have a good time, flex your guns, and let's get wild this morning, you guys. We're right back at it. Paul F. off of YouTube, first one in the chat here. Appreciate you guys tuning in for the Impact Attack Wednesday morning live. I'll be out later on hackerhamin.podbean.com. Hacker Hamin on your iTunes WHMG dial. Yeah, we're back up in it, man. And I
WHMG dial Bin Hamin's bunker.
I'm saying, you heard that. You hear him down there in the cellar. I was bored. This COVID shit had me itching to get back in the ring, so I had to go do a kidnapping. So I took the kid out of his bed in the middle of the night, black bagged him, tased his nuts, and he's lucky he got the big coffee cup this morning, but he's locked away in an undisclosed location that no one will ever find him unless you pay the bits ransom to hear on Twitch this morning, infidels. Y'all get him out of this.
I mean, I can at least be, appreciative that you gave me a bed. That's what you gave me, a mattress. So, you know, that's nice of you. Like, no pillow, but you gave me the mattress. So that was at least, I appreciate that. It's nice of you to do that. But yes, guys, we're back here. I'm in another place. MSG here, Matthew Schaefer, right here on the Impact Attack. I woke up this morning. I didn't have my papers. I tried to get to the max, but I was saved by the bell. As I'm ready to rock and roll, and I watched this full episode of Impact Wrestling. A lot of good stuff on here I liked. But we've got a couple cool topics I want to get into, hot stories coming off Monday Night Raw, some weird things that happened. But before we get there, I fancy myself to be somewhat of a classy individual, Mr. Bommy Hemer. And today we have a very fancy individual himself, Theodore Fancy. Mr. Fancy, sir, welcome to the show, sir.
Well, that wasn't the fanciest of introductions there, Mr. MSG, but I guess it will have to do. Theodore Fancy's the fanciest of fancy. And last night we saw Deonna Purrazzo, perhaps the fanciest of Impact Wrestling. She was the fanciest, and she won once again her title of being the fanciest of fancy. MSG, the thing that's fancy about you, they say you are what you eat. Well, it looks like you must have had some fancy feast because you look like some cat food. Fancy.
Well, I'll take notes. I definitely don't eat.
Because I sprayed my camera, I got to wipe my fancy scarf here.
Sorry.
Look, I even have this fancy mask that would have been way too uncomfortable to wear for an hour and a half. So it just proves how fancy I am.
Oh, okay. Do you go to those Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise style parties?
Oh, those bags of trash, they aren't fancy enough for Theodore Fancy. Get them out of here.
Gotcha. Sorry. I don't know. The mask.
Hollywood trash. Theodore Fancy wouldn't dare to be seen with any Hollywood drivel. He hasn't watched a movie in 15 years.
Hell no. After the Goonies, I was done.
That was it.
No more Hollywood for me.
That was it. After you learned about that one kid getting touched in there, he said, "That's not fancy. That is not fancy at all."
I saw the shuffle, and I shuffled my way out of there.
Buffalo. Welcome, Theodore Fancy. I think Deonna Purrazzo is well represented, as you are her personal assistant and advisor, fashion advisor. Obviously, she looked incredible last night in that gear that you had put together for her. I thought it was award-winning. It was red carpet level, you could go see royalty in it. It was that fancy, I thought. And to be honest with you, I was absolutely awestruck at that match, and I look forward to hearing Theodore Fancy's breakdown of the Iron Women match later. So that was good. The big thing is that I gave you, Theodore Fancy would know this. you give the audience something just so you can what?
You have to take it away. You have to make them fancy it.
That's right. Then that's what's going to happen to Matt's mattress tonight. So no mattress for you, Matt. I gave it to you just so I could take it away and shatter your dreams, and you'll be on the hard floor again. Now that's fancy.
The shitty thing is he totally removed the carpet and everything. Like he could have left the carpet, no. It's hanging outside. Like I'm looking at it in the rain. You just threw it out there.
I like to imagine like the floor is just a bunch of tack strips, and you got to carefully tiptoe
Stop
around.
giving him ideas.
TikTok.
TikTok. Tick. Is that what it is? TikTok, pal. Yeah. Well, we're back here, guys, on the Impact Attack. Of course, you can check us out in all of your media outlets, guys. Spotify, Apple, iTunes. Don't forget, check out our second affiliate account, HaminMediaGroup.podbean.com. You can also check out our YouTube, which is growing. It's booming each and every day. We're getting new subscribers. You guys are tuning into the content, so we appreciate you as we continue to build out that channel. And you can see all the amazing different thumbnails that Ted's been doing over there. Ted's been honing his production game on the YouTube side. So guys,
the grind, man, 10,000 hour rule, and you see it every week. Just more and more incredible production from Ted, from you, from El Plaja, from Kaz. The news from William Alicia is hitting on all cylinders above any other news site. I see things that are 9 out of 10 we're hitting on these inside things, man, and everybody's just doing their. I know I'm leaving a ton of people off the list here, but everybody's just really zoned in. Stevie too. Stevie's up, dealing with some stuff with his dog being kind of on the way out and all that. But he was up all night. He's like, I'm going to produce for 3 hours. And he's doing T-shirts. He's doing video editing. I mean, it's just unbelievable how everybody's motivating each other forward, man, to push themselves as artists. And then we all have this collaborative here that's now yielding opportunities as Stevie stooged off on Russo brand on the Raw and SmackDown review that we are going to be working with Johnny Swinger to help develop some content and his pro wrestling tees and all this stuff, man. So we're excited this week at Hamin Media Group and Stevie Richards to be helping us start produce that, man. So get ready for some exciting stuff. And also Triple D out there, he's in the chat room right now cheering bits. Fudge 420 cheering as well. Triple D with a new Star Trek podcast. A lot of great reviews of that, man. People were taken to the next galaxy. They were like, this guy hit a home run right out of the park here. And thank you, Matt, for helping with production on that as well.
I'll be honest. I'm gonna be real. Like I didn't have to do much. Like Triple D, got a good quality mic, went into a good spot. You taught him well.
Yeah, well, he taught himself well because
right.
The Dippin' Donuts or in the big truck rolling around. He's always got podcasts on, so he listens to everybody from Shivani, Kenny Bolin, Russo brand, K100, even Pritchard's stuff, and all of our stuff. So you can't not ingest that and then just say, let me take a little from here, take a little from here, pepper it in there, and what works. Plus, he deals with the public all day long, so his repertoire with people, it's just the same thing. It's just weird doing it sitting in a room by yourself, but I also stooge off and I'm going to push the button on this too. Man Beast and I got a new target. Yeah, we got a new Theodore Fancy. We've got a new target to go fox hunting, and his name is Jamin Olivencia. I saw our good buddy Jamin Olivencia. He sent me a picture just to tease me of a whole podcasting setup that he just got. So I've been looking for veteran voices. Jamin is becoming an artist beyond wrestling with his videography work and his poetry and his inspirational speaking. I think he'd just be damn awesome to have as a part of Hamin Media Group. So we got a big one in the targets here. So we got to go out there. We've got to lay some bait and lay in wait. Theodore Fancy, get the blunderbuster and be ready.
I think the thing with Jamin is we just got to get him in here and do it. I don't think he really listens to podcasts or anything like that. So I think I don't think he understands it. Like, because him and I, anytime we get together, we'll have these really, really just engrossing conversations just about everything from technology to, to wrestling to storytelling. And then he's like, so if we did a podcast, what would we talk about? I said, we could take this whole hour and a half that we just sat there talking about this shit and put it online, and it would be, people would want to listen to it. Like, it's just, he just has some good stuff and some good insights. Like, I don't think he understands just literally people want to hear those insights, and just the normal conversations like we have, offline. I mean, I think a lot of what we talk about on here, we echo whenever we are talking offline as well. So it's like just having those deep conversations and talking about whatever that is inspiring, and, really be able to bring his insights into it, I think would be really interesting. I think our listeners would really enjoy it.
Oh, he's all energy, man, and a ton of knowledge, and a son of rip. And it's getting extra fancy now in the chat room. I see Salvatore, big Salvatore of the Federal Bureau of Italians has joined us. Double fancy.
Double fancy, yes.
It's gigantically fancy in there. But yeah, man, we're having fun here this morning. Theodore Fancy, obviously, the consigliere, the right-hand man behind every great woman. There's a great man to Deonna Purrazzo last night from the Iron Women match. And you're here at the Impact Attack. Go ahead, Matt. What's the news?
Yeah, so let's start off with what happened on Monday Night Raw, guys. And of course, for those who are aware, Ben Hamin, Ted the Man Beast, and hashtag RBV2 review the Monday Locker Room. But this broke on Monday night, and that was there was a lot of mischief about during the broadcast. Some of our WWE fans, the fans itself, the good fans that represent wrestling fans, when you then have to go tell your other, family members about professional wrestling, and they go, "You watch that crap?" Well, this is one of those negative blights on professional wrestling once more, unfortunately. And the fans in this case did a couple of different things. From, I believe we saw one individual put up a picture of Chris Benoit. We saw it looked to be a recording of one of Ben Hamin's many cousins executing somebody. That's allegedly. I don't want to implicate anybody. And then, but the one that WWE actually issued a statement about was the KKK appearance. So WWE actually,
you don't want to implicate anybody. What do you think you've been taken for? You're going to be the main event on SmackDown in the Thunderdome. That's why you're in that room. We're going right back to it. Do the spot again, bigger. I've bought even more logins, so we're going to have in multiple screens. Your final days, your big debut on SmackDown Thunderdomes.
Well, congratulations, MSG. That's awesome.
You're booked, kid. You're booked.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Anywho, as I was about to continue, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. I'm going to try and take some medicine later, and hopefully I'll just pass out, and this will all be a dream. That being said, WWE issued a statement on the KKK rally. So WWE issued a statement in response to the abhorrent behavior that occurred during the final moments of this week's Monday Night Raw. The show closing segment saw Dominic and Rey Mysterio attacked by the Retribution faction, while a man in what appeared to be a KKK outfit made it onto the video wall, front and center in WWE's newly built Thunderdome. Now, they responded by saying this behavior does not reflect their values, blah, blah, blah. We're working to ban those individuals from future events. Who cares? The interesting, topic I want to bring to you guys is, A, how did they go about maybe better mitigating these individuals that they're letting them be on the video wall? That's the first part of this question. And the second part of it is, can you? Like, I think as a master control operator, if you only got one guy, let's say I'm one guy, and they go, "All right, Matt, I need you to watch 300 video screens all at once." That's going to be a little bit difficult. So I want your thoughts. Mr. Fancy, were you, this is obviously not fancy. This has got to be a belligerent, disgusting, just downright dirty, right?
They should have just live cammed some live stock if they were going to have that horrid hoarseness out there. It was not fancy at all. Now get me all riled up there, MSG.
I know it was not fancy, but it was hilarious. Regardless if it was Chris Benoit, people sleeping.
Sleeping one's funny.
Yeah, dude. The MJF 2020 stuff, and they'll kick you off. You got an AEW, Sean.
Fire Velveteen Dream, right? That happened.
I can almost guarantee ratings will be up on Friday night because of this. And because now the trolls are now it's become something. Who can get over? They're going to try and slide in. Like they're going to go when Kevin Dunn tells them to go boo and Orton's on there and everybody looks like a dumb jackass 35-year-old. Or are you going to wait and like do that, get through 2 or 3 matches? They sit back in the cut thinking they're safe. And then somebody hits switch screen and it's the Page video, with her and Woods and Beef, how many of those are coming this Friday? There's going to be, you thought there was some this week. Now that they caught a little internet fire, the trolls are ready to come out from under the bridge big time. And some of them are ingenious in the way they do things.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting that the NBA, if you look at the audience as far as the individuals, when you watch the NBA games, there's no, ridiculous mischief. It's just people sitting there watching the NBA. They got their jerseys on, they're cheering, and then you watch.
Well, now not anymore, dude. You watch this week. There's going to be some.
You think it's just going to be a trickle effect?
Their Instagram shit. Yes, dude. People want shine. And they want to F things up at any cost. What do they have to lose? Nothing really, right? Like
Sal says in the chat room, it's now a badge of honor.
Yeah, dude, it's good. Like this is the troll environment that they've opened themselves up to, and now we're gonna see some interesting things.
Well, I just I would ask you to, as human beings, to just reflect on yourselves. You already make light of yourselves by disgracing yourself online by posting every single thing, from your pictures to what you eat to where you're going to. So everything is documented. You don't necessarily need to now go on television and make a fool out of yourself and, set yourself up potentially for failure down the line as that idiot who was on Monday Night Raw who whipped out his junk or something. When they showed that executioner video, it was so blurry. I thought literally it was somebody holding their junk. That's what I thought it was initially until someone pointed it out to me that it was.
Don't worry, you're going to get a close-up view soon enough. I mean, Friday night, you better be ready. You're kicking off the show.
God damn it. God damn it. Okay. The last little bit of news here before we get into Impact Wrestling. It looks like here, fellow, I guess you might say affiliate friend of the network via your guys' coach, Rip Rogers. Pat McAfee actually came out and had a response about his match. Following his fantastic debut against Adam Cole, McAfee spoke with ESPN where he discussed how focused he was on the match itself and how he isn't aware if he will be doing this again. So for when it came to this match on Saturday, I was only focused on that match. I was focused on how can I go in there, put on a hell of a show, put on a hell of a fight, and get a win. And then we'll worry about everything after that on Saturday. We'll cross that bridge whenever we get to that. And I've heard that conversation start all around me. And there was a lot of, even my mom was asking, well, are you going to do this again? And I'm like, well, let's worry about that on Saturday. So, and then he goes on to say that, and then I got to Sunday, obviously, and I woke up, neck was sore, back was sore, foot was sore. I got flipped on my head. To be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. I'm not under contract to do anything with Mr. H. I assume he and I will talk about this at some point because I heard his comments in the press conference afterwards, which were very nice. So Pat McAfee, feeling that residual effect of taking a bump in the ring, Mr. Hamin. Do you think he will be back?
It'd be crazy to not bring him back. I mean, he stole the show. He did a simple, maybe how many times he trained with Rib Beast? 12 to 20, maybe.
I honestly, I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, roughly, yeah. Even that's pretty light, right? Like that's just a mini camp. But this guy's a grade A, NFL, soccer, world-class athlete. It doesn't matter if it was bowling or ping pong. I'm sure he's got skills, man. Some guys are made to do that,
Ping pong?
Yeah. But
ding dong.
Sorry. And Justin keeping it simple, stupid, and then having his high spots, the flip off the top rope on all his boys, front flip dive. Wow, impressive, and especially taking everybody out is one of the few that I've seen that actually looked real. Simple headlock stories, jump up from from just the mat to the top rope, superplex. Like these aren't things normal men can do in this business. And especially with that little amount of training, and everything he hit was clean and on time and on rhythm. And there's some of his footwork and the way he turns and things, obviously that just comes with repetition, and maybe like the Ric Flair woos on the outside. That's a little like, I'm in wrestling for the first time, and this is what I was running through me. And he did it kind of when he punted him in the end of the seg at NXT too. He like Ric Flair up, like, I get it, But aside from that, Cole blew the finish, the rhythm of the finish, and McAfee shined. Instead, they should have put McAfee over, and maybe that's politics of like, get this guy over, but don't let him get too over. I'm the only one who's over around here. And then, they should have put him over, and then you could have built to Triple H and him at Mania, dude, or even Royal Rumble. Like there's a lot of story here, but putting Cole over on him for what reason? Just because Cole's an established wrestler? Who gives a fuck? This guy is a world-class athlete. There's no shame in getting your fucking ass beat by one of the best in the world by what he does, getting punted. You know what I mean? Just sell the motherfucker and let's do business. And afterwards, Game can come out and fucking get in his face, and then McAfee pushes Game. And McAfee's still the heel there, but like we didn't do none of that biz, man, and now he took his bumps, man, and welcome to being in wrestling and not being an on-the-road worker or being conditioned. And you got that energy, dude. It's probably as big a buzz as when he was Super Bowl bound almost, really. I got to imagine, because there's no team. It's just him and Cole. Like, you got to fucking toe the line, you know what I mean? And he killed it. He fucking absolutely killed it. But now there's not really much business. They got to go back to square one to start new business. That's a short-sighted way to do things where I think politics might have played a role in that kind of shit of like, workers protect workers. We're not just gonna let this guy go over on you and bury it. Dude, it's fucking wrestling. Do box office draw. Then when he's in the match with Triple H, Cole can be in the fucking semi-main event at Royal Rumble doing something to help Game out. And that's his way. But they don't see that shit, man. Like they go backwards more than they go forwards with things, dude.
So if you guys are live with us here on twitch.tv/conspiracy horseman, you can see this ongoing conversation that's happening right now in the chat room, where one of our individuals going back and forth with Sal, believing that Pat McAfee does not need to pay dues to be in the wrestling business, that's obsolete culture. If you're good, you're good. Of course, Mr. Big Sal here says that's a big negative no. So if you want to be part of this conversation and more arguments like that, you can join us here on twitch.tv/conspiracy horseman.
You got to pay your dues, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, sure, McAfee can get these spots that where guys can. I don't think Cole carried McAfee. I think Triple H could carry McAfee to a legendary match. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
They pretty much worked a rip match, which I'm super anxious. Theodore Fancy aside, Dr. Ted, whatever, Nick Beckham, Ted the Trailer McNailer is the guy who really did it. And I want to hear, because this main event on Impact was a Rip Rogers 101 Iron Man match, Broadway, whatever you want to call it. I feel maybe you disagree with me, you or not, Ted.
I thought there was a lot of good wrestling in there, but as we get into it, I think there were opportunities for getting more heat and for more story development. But that's not taking away from the. Just I very much appreciated the wrestling aspect of it, but also thought there was an opportunity to do more business as well.
It felt like she's run that with Damian Adams 100 times. So It's like Rip's knowledge through Damian's way of doing things a little more modern. And then that's what we got. And I thought they killed it. We'll come back to it, though. I mean,
and speaking of Damian, I actually, since you brought him up, I don't know if what his schedule's like. I'd love to get him in here on 1 week, especially since we do have Deanna going on, Impact as champion, and I don't know if he would necessarily want to put himself out there, to necessarily discuss, but I'd love to hear some of his insights as far as,
I check his Instagram story, dude, and he's training a lot of guys there too who look like they're ready to rock and roll, like who are in ring shape, who aren't going to be Pat McAfee bumped out. You know what I mean? After that, but if McAfee comes back on select things, that's fine, but he doesn't need to be no full timer. And what's he got to prove or whatever? The guy's already made in what he does. They want him for Monday Night Football. They want him for ESPN. He's already I hope to aspire to get my media platform to where his is, and tied in with Barstool and all that. So for him to be a fan of wrestling and in it now is one thing. He can play the David Arquette in and out type bit, you know what I mean? For the rest of his career, he's already been made off of this, but there is 2 or 3 good opportunities left within WWE to make him shine in a certain way and really get the most out of that, to draw eyes. That's what he does. He draws NFL eyes. You get your shit on ESPN in a more legit way. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Here's the thing is, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I feel like more people know who Adam Cole is now than they did 2 weeks not necessarily 2 weeks, but I'd say maybe 2 months ago before the whole thing started with the interview and everything. You know what I mean? So I think in that sense, it helped to elevate Cole, just as much as it helped to establish, that McAfee can at least hold his own when it comes to putting on a match.
Yeah, definitely. That's the biggest hurdle to cross of are you going to freeze under the lights in your first time out? And him and Dominic, who obviously have both had great trainers, his father and Rip Rogers for Pat, just are coachable, and you shut the fuck up and listen and tell you what they need to do, and we'll do it repetition, break it down, very simple at the simplest level, and you can see it all come together. The guy's obviously coachable. He made it to the goddamn NFL. What do you want? that's what it takes to be a player. So
agreed. Well, guys, that's all the top headlines I wanted to talk about. I don't want to get too much more detail.
Tons of business to do today.
Yep. No. Well, speaking of business as well, I just want to put over our sponsors. You can check out thebrosters.com. Pick up your bag of Russo Bro coffee. Zordo's olive oil, of course, by our own Triple D, hosts that Star Trek podcast, which is available on Hamin Media Group.podbean.com and everywhere. And you can also check out Steve Richards Fitness. Join the resistance band, evolution that's sweeping the nation. Get your fitness on. I actually have my resistance bands here too, so I'll probably do that after we get off.
Take the easy way out if you don't want to make your debut. You know what to do with those resistance bands.
Damn it. And then what Tech Meme Ride Home podcast. I should probably listen to that and try to find a way to make some money, get myself out of this bunker, get some tech tips on the world, what's going on in Silicon Valley and beyond. It's the podcast that all the Fortune 50, 100, 500 CEOs are listening to for all their technologically based news. So check out Tech Meme Ride Home podcast. Drive Home podcast. Sorry. I'm getting all mixed up here. I'm scared. Sorry,
you shouldn't be. It's a big debut. I saw the Brosters sent Troy. Actually, was bought a bunch. I think he's probably bought 10 bags of Brosters coffee. Russo brand limited edition. They sent him a free Brosters t-shirt, and he put that out on Twitter. So, yeah, man. And then they just hit me up. They're going to be doing a promotion with Dippin' Donuts locally. So we're going to see about that, but I'm working on the 5-pound bag of Brosters Russo brand as well. So awesome, guys. Appreciate you. And it is the best. It's the best coffee.
Absolutely. It is the fanciest of fancy. Yep. The fanciest coffee, the fanciest olive oil, the fanciest workout regime, and then the fanciest of fancy podcasts.
We only have the fanciest sponsors for Theodore Fancy. It's
the only reason I'm on the show is because you have the fancy sponsors.
It is.
If they weren't so fancy, I wouldn't be here.
No. Oh, and I actually, before you came on, I oiled up my beard. You can see, look at it. No, not a gray in there.
How glistening.
Wow. CanYouHandlebar.com. And you know what's fancy is Wisdom Scent. That's the fanciest of the scents from CanYouHandlebar.com for your beard oil.
I would fancy having some myself. I might have to get me some.
I think you should. They have plenty of products there. Check them out. A great website, CanYouHandlebar.com. At the Can You Handlebar. Let them know Hacker Hamin sent you. Follow them on Twitter. They're good dudes.
Also, since he's in the chat room, I also do want to put over that one of our top, I think it was either the number 1 or number 2 podcast. It was Right Opinion Pod and the Horror Junkyard on Hamin Media Group.
Obviously,
last week. So
they're doing big things. All August long was summer camp, all the horror films that way, and B-roll one, or real ones you might even never have heard of, not like the Friday the 13th, all that kind of stuff. So Horror Junkyard, I know Chuck had reached out. They want to do even more. They're going to do interactive gaming after the Horsemen. I'm not sure if tonight's going to be the first night or not, but they're going to probably on their Twitch channel get it going. I'm going to host it off of Conspiracy Horsemen, and they're going to be doing a lot more with video games, with RPG, Dungeons and Dragons games. That's those guys, comic books and horror. All that is their, wheelhouse. And it was awesome. I saw even Brent Logan just posted on Twitter. He's missing doing shows, and obviously Lethal Vendetta isn't together right now or anything, but he had that Eric Kent Conspiracy Horseman shirt on, a huge follower, incredible comic book artist. He did that one for us, the Conspiracy Horseman one. Then he did an awesome Horror Junkyard one as well, man, for Pro Wrestling Tees. So just all hands on deck of like, hey, I'm bored. Let me put my art towards you. You know what else is getting over is it's just Swamp, his daily grays, where he's doing drawings of gray aliens dressed as different iconic figures. So fun stuff. I mean, all these guys are great artists, Sal and GGP too. So we're putting them to work, man.
Well, if I make it out of here, hopefully I can get an invite to play some D&D with the horror people, but it's not looking good right now. Let's go ahead and get into it.
You're already playing Dungeons. There are no dragons.
God damn it. Let's get into Impact Wrestling. First match of the night, they came right out with Eddie Edwards, the champion, in his open challenge. And the person who, comes out is Rob Van Dam. He responds to this open challenge.
No. The first person who comes out
is Katie Forbes.
It's Katie fucking Forbes, bro. Katie fucking Forbes, okay? Like exactly what they need to be doing. These Instagram girls, that's right, straight twerking, like giving them the sexiest show.
I just heard gunshots, so I was afraid.
Yeah, we're just getting things cleaned up. You never know. Like this is exactly the TV MA stuff they need to be producing, because WWE pulled the rated G level strippers from Raw Underground just based off of Medusa and Lance Storm bitching about it. Meanwhile, Katie Forbes comes out and Lance doesn't say shit about Rob, who's his boy, right? Like this chick's pretty much showing everything right up to like, let me get the dollars out and I'll pull them down for it at this point, right? And multiple times through the match. So this match is not only hard hitting for a championship from two guys that you really want to see go. And Katie really isn't pulling focus during the match, but like when she had to go do her spot, like boom, it's right there in front of your face again. You know what I mean? Double bubble and trouble. And this shit had me entertained as a kickoff to the show, dude. I thought it was good. And even the finish, the distraction, big knee, I didn't have a problem with it at all. This reminded me of what we would book in 2CW right here, man.
Well, I was beginning the match, I was trying to be a little fancy here, Mr. Hamin. I didn't want to go right into the nudity. I thought we'd break it down and then, go into the classy side, but, that's fine.
Great.
Titties and ass come right out, and she shakes it all around. And then we get Rob Van Dam does make his appearance. They come down to the ring. So Rob Van Dam is challenging Eddie Edwards to begin tonight's matchup for the Impact World Championship. They go back and forth. As you already mentioned here, there was a bit of a distraction there at the end. However,
more of them. They need two more of her. She needs to bring two friends to do the same thing.
Her friends in, right? Her girlfriend, right?
Yeah, but then they need another one too. Like they need a squad of them, dude. Like that. Like people will be tuning in at 100,000 more a clip if you set it off in that old ECW way, man. I'm telling you, you will.
Okay, well, Mr. Fancy, what did you think of this match, and were you intrigued by the openingness, about how the opening of the botchery, if you will?
I liked it. I think, and here's what my thoughts watching this late at night last night was I felt like it was a good
late at night. Got the lotion out. Is that what you were doing?
Well,
He's doing some tape review.
that's right. But I felt like there was an opportunity here to further the story between Sami Callihan and RVD, as well as have Eddie Edwards overcome more of a mountain here. And here's what I mean by that. I'm not taking away anything from I thought they had a good match, but I always think of what was the business. The business was really, in a sense, to put Eddie Edwards over. And I think, though, they could have worked in, and this is where the difference of where the spotlight is. I think they could have shifted the spotlight to the Rob Van Dam, Sami Callihan deal, and then shifted it back over. And that's the difference of putting spotlight on two different things at one time versus shifting the spotlight. So actually, and I think there's a few different ways you could do it, but and maybe as I read this, it won't come across as well as I thought it did in my head last night. But here's the way I would have potentially laid it out. Not saying this is the right way, the wrong way, but it is a different way. And tell me if you feel like this would have done more business. So you do everything where, the crotch thing happens. Rob Van Dam goes up for the 5-star. That's when the Sami Callihan lights go out, come back up. Rob Van Dam is distracted with Sami. Eddie Edwards, the consummate baby face, doesn't want to win this way with the distraction, so he dives onto Sami, which throws Sami off. RVD goes to jump on Eddie. Eddie ducks out of the way and turns and then hits the Boston knee party on the outside. He works his way to pick RVD up, throws him back in the ring. 1, 2, and then that's an example of, because of the time it took, it's okay. It doesn't bury the finish. RVD kicks out. Eddie Edwards is like, get up, motherfucker. RVD started to sell. Katie Forbes jumps up again for a distraction. Eddie Edwards says, fuck this. He doesn't kick her. He kicks the rope, causing her to fall off. Bam. RVD is able to get up at this point, hit Eddie from behind, shoot him off, reverse, Boston knee party, 1, 2, 3. And then there's more of a mountain that the babyface had to overcome in order to win the match. Or do you think that's too much?
No, I like that because we didn't get the Sami business until later, just in a promo, right, to reignite it. He wasn't in the match. So now that could be Impact's going to impact, where maybe Sami's only signed X amount of dates and not a long-term contract, and they didn't know if he was going to do that. Then he's going to be back on. So we need the pro. Like there's like, I told
you're right. It could be business. And if that's the case, then so be it. It is what it is. And that's where, sometimes I understand as a writer, you got to go with what as a company you have to do to what you have to do.
Right. Because otherwise to mix them in and not have them would break continuity the other way, where we can not do it here and then add continuity at a lesser effect, but we won't get caught with our dick in our hands with a match where we did a finish that's not going to pay off, right? Like that's the whole argument before we even get to say how we're going to write it, But yeah, man, this was sexy, athletic, good switch finish. I agree, Beast. We could have gotten more to tie it in there, absolutely, with them. But everybody shined in this, dude. I thought, nobody buried anything, and Rob wasn't going to take some bullshit that popped me when he was up on the top rope. Like Eddie wants to hit him with some whatever. Rob's like, fuck you, push him off. He comes back, kicked him, crotched him on the ropes. He's like, nah, you'll take the fucking flying sidekick instead. So it's little things like that as I like to watch guys like strip their offense down of like just the impending offense alone is enough for you to, he almost got that on Rob Van Dam, but Rob kicked him. Okay. Rob don't have to do shit, but what he knows he can do safely and that he's not going to get hurt on. I like that, man. But dude, super sexy. I don't know if Katie Forbes has ab implants, ass implants. I think she's had some work done up top, but it don't matter, dude. That is what we're looking for. These Instagram girls with 3 to 7 million followers who post every day. They walk around in a thong. Their bodies are all enhanced or else perfect. They go to the gym just to have yoga pants on with camel toe and take Instagram stories. Your show's doing 140 to 160,000. Those girls want nothing more than to be on TV, even though they're doing double what SmackDown does in followers, okay? You think it's smart to not just have one, but have 3 who can put your stuff out. What are they going to do? They're going to be right on Instagram that they're on TV doing. I'd have them at ringside live doing Instagram stories while it's going down.
Yes.
Like, forget about the sexy draw alone. The fact that people are going to be out there and then because they're not going to have the fully produced version, those girls are going to be able to promote your show globally to all the tape trader masturbators from India to New Zealand to Belgium, back to Canada and down to earth again. Like, whatever it is, man, like that is a simple marketing thing that is win, win, win for everybody on that.
Yeah.
Well, after that, as far as the conclusion of the match, RVD went for the 5 stars frog splash. Edwards ducked out of the way. Edwards planted RVD with a Boston knee party to pick up the victory. And then after match, Eric Young came out and he attacked Edwards from behind. And then, basically laying down the gauntlet that it's his plan all along. We do things on his time. And next week, he's ready to challenge Eddie Edwards for the Impact World Championship. So that's what it looks like we're going to be getting then. Then we had a backstage interview with the brand new X Division champion, Rohit Raju. Rohit explains why he was held back for so long. He was never given opportunities because he wasn't the cool person in the locker room, but he's going to be the exact opposite. Who can beat Rohit? I liked that. That was pretty good. What did you think of this, Mr. Fancy?
Very, very, the fanciest of fancy champions. Well, except for Diana Perazzo, of course. But Rohit Raju, the fanciest X Division champion certainly we've ever had. I thought, honestly, as I go from being fancy to being a podcast pundit, I thought it was good. As I said last week, I'm excited for Raju. I feel like it's been a long time coming, and this was just a good way to remind people that he's the new X Division champion, and to if anything remind us that, well, if anything, just to establish him as a character and continued his, I guess, heat, if you will, as far as just being very smarmy and snarky and just presenting himself in that manner.
Yeah, he's got to be a wrestling heel without being a character, and he's been the stereotype character. He's been whatever it needs to be, the brown man, the representative of India, the baby squad, whatever they were doing there, and then switch him into comedy. But this is his time to shine. But just as Rohit Raju, I call my brother's son because he shined like one. And without doing a wrestling promo, he got plenty over there of his journey along the way, and now it's time to challenge all oncomers, where he can wrestle like a Jerry Lynn, Rob Van Dam style match if he wants to, or he can just be on the cell, like if he has to wrestle Larry D or AC or one of those guys and he just gets killed for 90% of the match. All he's got to do is come up with a clever way, feet on the ropes, where he moves, they take themselves out, he fucking rolls their big ass up, feet on the ropes, and he's out of there after taking 2 or 3 big things, where he's just on the cell on Queer Street dying. You know what I mean? Like, that's an easy match to work as long as the big 500-pound bastard don't really kill you. It can be that easy and believable, and a heel win. That's the heat is in the finish. So he can deliver on either or, give you a 20-minute fucking cradle pile driver spectacular, or be in that type of comedy spot, but it's still believable that a littler guy who's the champ and is a smart talker is getting his ass handed to him by a big bull moose like that. So he'll kill it either way. He's doing great.
Well, after that, we get into our first Wrestle House segment. We've got the Deaners. Initially, they noted that Taya Valkyrie has organized a house bonding exercise that they can actually get into, a toga party. While this is going on, Johnny Swinger is in his leopard toga, and he berates Crazy Steve for wearing a plain toga. He after the break, everyone's partying. They're in the confessional room. Valerie is drunk. Valerie throws up while talking to Kylie Ray, and then AC Romero asks the Deaners for a truce. They agree as long as Romero promises not to drink their beer. Swinger then says, as he tells Crazy Steve, he wants a Mr. Fuji everyone, which is throwing powder in everyone's face. And he tries to set up Larry D, aka Lawrence D, in this segment to throw the powder in his face. Well, Lawrence D, I think he bent down to grab something in the midst of this, and Crazy Steve ends up getting pummeled in the face with Mr. Fuji style of powder, and this incites him. And Tommy Dreamer shows up, of course, in his toga, and we got a match time with the loser has to dress like the winner next week. So a blindfold match with Crazy Steve versus Johnny Swinger, and they were wearing hoods over their head. A very, just a very comedy style match. It wasn't really a wrestling match. Winner of this match was Crazy Steve. What do you guys think of this whole segment, Mr. Hamin?
Yeah, this the Baba-san references, and he would have thrown me out and all that kind of shit of what's happening. But now, with Crazy Steve going over, the stipulation was what?
Blindfold.
Swinger has to, Swinger has to dress like him next week.
Yeah, Swinger has to dress all goth and shit.
That's gonna be funny,
right? So, we're gonna get these worlds colliding along that. So the payoff, they didn't really put it over a ton afterwards, but it'll be pretty damn funny to see it in next week's bit. I
hope he dresses like the missing link.
This right when we were on the watch along here, I go, dude, I hope they work this the OVW way. And they did. Halfway through, they started out with a horn spot, which works because of Crazy Steve stuff, so it's his thing. I get it, but there was more meat on the bone in that match. Where who worked this? Power and who did we?
Gavin Garrison.
Yeah, Gavin, the Professor Gavin Garrison. And dude, they loved it. This match is the easiest. This is the easiest match in wrestling to work, dude. When you're just pointing, but they only had wrestlers around the ring, so it still worked. Yeah. When you have a crowd and you fucking do the point, is he there? I mean, this is.
And I would say, especially with a bunch of kids in the crowd too, they up like Adam Revolver fell in love with doing that match so much with Gavin Garrison. Pops been years after this. Anytime we had a house show with a bunch of kids,
that doesn't bother me.
But anytime we had a house show with a bunch of kids, he found a way to work a blindfold match in. So he's probably worked like 50 blindfold matches just because he had so much fun doing it. But it's a simple gimmick to work, and if you do it right, I mean, it's so much fun, and the crowd eats it up.
Nobody has to touch anybody, dude. You don't have to touch each other at all. And you just take your own bumps, do a little thing with the referee. But they actually did too much with the offense, I thought, with getting the ref into the spot for the kick and all that. You know what I mean? Like, who was the ref on this?
Big Diener.
Yeah, big.
Yeah,
like
Jake.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. Like, they had to work everybody in. I get it, but I've seen Power though. I've seen those matches, and if they did have a crowd, dude, they would have been going nuts for that at that point. So that had me psyched up in this.
I will say, as a random aside, I did like that Cousin Jake couldn't either. The shirt was too small, or he couldn't figure out how to get it on, so he just had it around his neck. And it almost made me wish that was just a small little scene of them trying to get the referee on. Them saying, "You know what? Screw it. That looks fine." The Fuji spot popped me huge because I didn't see it going out there. He just came in and yelled Fuji and threw the powder. That I thought it was so funny. And again, the only small thing I would have liked to see is back in the day, Fuji, they didn't call it powder, they called it salt in the eyes. But I think that would have been a funny callback for someone to go, salt, that's just baby powder. He goes, nuh-uh, that's Mr. Fuji said, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been just a funny little callback, but I would have liked that.
I like that too, but let me stooge something off to you. And this was what I was going to say for the book, but I don't know, whatever. It'll be in there too, because there's only 15 people watching, and who knows how many listening. But one thing that I got from Hacksaw, because we were doing shows and whatnot, and I had a powder spot in one of the Shitty Six matches, that if you're going to go huck powder in somebody's eyes as a heel, it's a big visual thing, but if you try and throw it at somebody far away, it usually ends up short. And you've seen bad powder throws before where they just like, and the guy has to sell, and they're like, it's baby powder, it doesn't look whatever. And you can smell it, it's whatever. But Hacksaw told me that the way Fuji would do it, he said you do put salt in there, and once you do that and mix it up like 25-75, it'll fucking fly. Like you can fling it and it'll have a big fucking trail behind it, and it'll look real going in there. So some dudes who weren't smart enough to close their fucking eyes probably did get the old whoop wop Fuji salt with the powder inside of it, man. So but that's the way a real heel should mix up his gimmicks, that way, is to throw some salt. He said he would put rice in there once in a while too, just to give it a little weight, but like usually most of the time it was just salt that he fucking take and put in there. So some guys probably did get wadded. I got destroyed by John Morrison when I looked right up when he was pouring the beer in my fucking eyes, and that was so yeah, man, there is salt in the powder, definitely.
Well, after that, Eddie Edwards is like storming around the arena, like, where's Eric Young? I'm gonna find him. So he storms the ring with his title in hand and says, Young message has been received. Young now has Edwards' attention. If Young wants a title shot, that he can have it. Then Edwards demands Young fight him for the title right here, right now. Young comes out and says that he's playing chess while Eddie is playing checkers. Young says that he'll be doing things as he wants, as he's planned next week. Edwards says that's fine, but that's not going to stop him from whipping his ass now. They start brawling. Scott D'Amore came out and he tried to get in the middle of this. And I was just like, man, you're really jumping right in there, buddy. As I think he got clunked around. He got knocked around by Eric Young. And then Edwards charged Young, and the two brawled. Referees and security broke it up. As I mentioned, Scott D'Amore got shoved down in the chaos. I like that they're continuing. I mean, they built this, early on in the program, so that at least they're giving some importance to Eddie Edwards versus Eric Young. However, I feel as a whole, it is a little disheartening to see the Impact World Championship showcased in such a minimal light, where it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like the opener. It's not necessarily the main event of the story, of the focus of the show. At least in my opinion, for this particular show, the focus was the 30-minute Iron Woman match. And I get it, it's the first ever. But at the same time, it feels like over the last month itself, they've really devalued the Impact World Championship even further. Anybody? Am I wrong here?
No, I mean the hook with EC3, like I was waiting for it, and that is where it is. Like, let me crush my past. You know what I mean? So I thought this is going to be another mailed-in promo, especially after
I wasn't talking about that. I'm sorry.
Well, I know, but I thought, like, because of the ROH thing, but then it gives it stake about the TNA dying compared to what you're talking about. I mean, so I don't know. It tied in.
I don't know. He's just been a really weak champion so far, Eddie Edwards. Like, it says they put the title on him, and it doesn't feel like there's really of any importance. It kind of just feels like it's a television championship. Who
did he go over on when he won it?
RVD. Oh, that was the 5-way match. It was on.
It was on Slammiversary.
Was it Eric Young?
He went over on everybody. Right?
That when good dudes came back and he effed over Swan.
Yeah.
And who was it in the end though? Because I got eliminated.
I think it was Edwards and Swan. I think it was Eric Young. I thought Eric Young came out and screwed him, am I mistaken in that?
They took him out, and then other guys were left. They went into other spots.
Oh, so it was the other rascal. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it wasn't Wentz, or is it Trey? Is that who it was?
Yeah, I don't know. They just put they subbed him in there at the end. They just did bad business, you know what I mean? And then they were kind of stuck with, well, who's a workhorse? Who's on? He's Tommy's boy. Tommy loves him, and he knows he can get whatever out of him, even if he's a transitional champion.
It was Ace Austin. Ace Austin.
I'm sorry,
because that led to the Good Brothers and Fulton doing the thing. Yeah,
like. There was just so much business in that it got lost, right?
And there's an example of Spotlight being on multiple things at once, and then nothing gets over. I mean, it's not to say those ideas individually weren't bad. I mean, the ideas individually were good, but when you put the spotlight on too many things at once, it all gets muddy.
Too many, man. Yeah, but Eddie has carried 2 CW titles and put on what you want from Eddie is, and it's tough because he was labeled as the psycho or whatever, right? Like he went down that road and did a good story with Sammy and with his wife, and they did a lot of good cinematography with it. But now that he's that, or like,
but here's what I think it really is, MSG. Can you identify who Eddie Edwards is as a character?
Not right now.
He's like a dirtbag skater type dude. Like,
and if you can't, someone that analyzes wrestling, someone at home, in order to live vicariously through someone on the television screen, you have to at least have it doesn't mean you have to want to be them, but you at least have to have an understanding of who they are and their motivations and what makes them them. Right now, Eddie Edwards is just a guy who wants to be a champion.
Like, to me, and this is no disrespect to him as an in-ring worker or anything like that, he kind of comes off as just like a homeless guy holding the title right now.
But yeah, but here's the thing: I think they can define him as a character.
He's got no home. He's got no character. Like, that's what I'm saying. He just kind of he looks like raggedy. I mean, and I don't mind the psycho stuff when he was doing all that unhinged stuff when he was breaking it down. I mean, you weren't here for this, Ted, but last year when he started the feud with Sammy and all these people, when he started to get broken, they were doing all this amazing cinematography where he's going crazy and Alicia's leaving him and shit, and he's running through his house and all this crazy stuff. It was amazing stuff. So he can do good character work.
So to that point, I think this could have been an opportunity tonight to really bring that back around full circle with the maniac Eric Young pulling the strings of Eddie Edwards, and Eddie Edwards finally snapped. So actually, this was one again, I'm not taking anything. Well, I guess I am taking a little bit away. Just I think this one could have been punched up to where it could have played up better. So here we're more light night thoughts with Fancy Ted. But here's what I said is we saw Eddie Edwards just one scene ago tearing up backstage, so possessed with anger that he couldn't stand not having his hands on Eric Young. Then we're back to the ring, and Eddie Edwards politely waits for Eric Young to come out to the ramp and explain himself instead of going after him, and then manages Eddie Edwards to compose himself enough to formally explain to EY the difference between having a match next week and then going out there and kicking his ass right now, and then goes out and kicks his ass.
Sounds kind of fancy.
You know what I mean? But how much more would it have meant if Eric Young's music hit, and before Eric Young barely can even come through that curtain, Eddie Edwards is a man possessed coming down the ramp, spears him through the back, and then they have the big brawl and they're fighting. And then when they finally pull him off, you have camera right on Eddie Edwards. He's like, you think you're a maniac? You want a psycho? I'm Eddie Edwards, motherfucker! And then you pull him off, you bleep it out. Ooh. Holy shit. And then you have Eric Young, and like, that's exactly where I wanted you. I'll see you next week in scene.
Yeah,
that was great. That was impassioned. Plaja clip that. That was great. Plaja clip that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Can you feel that and be like, the psycho Eddie Edwards is back? Holy shit! Now I want to see what happens next week. Instead of politely waiting for the man that we just saw, you were tearing up backstage trying to get to him. Now he's in front of you, and you're gonna hear him out.
I think we might end up.
I can't reconcile that, And again, these guys are incredibly talented, and that's the frustrating part. I'm not taking away from their talent, but just the writing. I felt like it just could have been punched up right there.
Maybe we'll have a return of Teddy Edwards in the future, and he might be a little psycho. Who knows?
I got worked up. I might have to do some squats. But you know what I mean? Like he just would have had to just snap right there, and then that's where Eric Young wants him, and we see the psycho come back, and everything that they've built up with Eddie Edwards in the past. Now it comes back, and it's more meaningful now because he's pulled on those strings of Eddie Edwards, and we know what happens when Eddie Edwards gets psycho. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Sami Callihan Eddie Edwards feud that took place was probably one of Impact's best feuds in the last 2 or 3 years.
They used a lot of tricks from Broken Universe that unlocked potential for them setting up those games, and they really used a lot of great. And Sammy's on the cutting edge of what's cool too, and they can both do insane offense, so it all worked together. And I agree, man. Beast, what you just laid out there is unbelievable.
It was great, yeah. Well, so let's move on then, I guess, to the locker room talk now. We're unfortunately, Johnny Swinger is not available as he's still trapped in the Wrestle House Vortex universe. But Madison Rain's got some guests. She's got the boys from the Rascals, and I thought there was some good worlds colliding here initially.
Hold on. Conspiracy Horseman shows locker rooms Monday, Wednesday. All right, cool. Go ahead.
Whoa. Oh, okay. So yes, the Rascals. There was some good, you might say, worlds colliding, right? Because you got the stoner wrestlers hanging out with the quote unquote Karen of Impact Wrestling, and there was a lot of good jokes back and forth. I thought with Madison implying, "Oh, I like greenery and plants," and they're like, "Yeah, we like greenery and plants too."
Well,
But
called her Karen. She's like, I'm not a Karen, and then they do the whole scene. And she brings it back around and starts talking about greener and plants like she's down to go smoke again. Like, you know what I mean? But when it's that was interesting to me, I don't know. I was like, I don't like that in an improv scene because they brought it up, they put it out there. And what do we say in an improv scene, Beast?
Show don't tell, or
yes and.
Yes and.
Yeah, I was gonna say yes and.
Yes, and I take it, and I want to see Madison Rain Stone. I want to see that
version.
Yeah.
That's way better than like get it up to the fence and just so we can do a Karen joke. And then if they're gonna do that, she's like, I'll show you I'm no Karen. Boom. And then we do the fucking thing. And they all could have been just laughing at Ace Austin and Madman Fulton and Stone, and that gets them more mad and they storm the fuck off. But at least we're all on the same side together on that. That was
Madison could have gone and be like, "You're little and you're big."
Yeah, all that.
They're like, "Shut up! Get out of here."
There was good stuff in here where the Rascals are too good at just like, I'm gonna stay in my character and do in the moment. Like, so the best part was like, all right, here comes. I thought it was just gonna be the Rascals, but they're the co-hosts. So here comes Ace Austin and Fulton to sit down, and he sits between like, no. And then the one gets up, and you think the bit's over, but then the other guy doesn't want, Trey McGaw doesn't want either, and he slides out of the seat and shit, like slides down. None of that is scripted. That is all just character work and in its raw moment.
It's good.
And it's holding up the scene. But that shit is better than anything you're going to write to try and do business, because that dude is so big and needs his man spreading space and wants to make people feel bullied and uncomfortable. He gets rid of one, but the other guy doesn't say, fuck it, I'll sit here. He says, yes, and I'm out of here too. But his and is, I've got to take 15 seconds. How am I going to get out of here? I'm going to do it like a little kid who doesn't want to get picked up. So good, man. Like that kind of stuff. And we saw that same shit in that promo with Moose, where they had the suicide mask, where they're just going back and forth about a zipper on the hoodie and it's cold and things like that. They just played it out, dude. It was really good stuff between those guys. And this was another scene that was kind of lackluster for the Heat. And I was more interested in seeing what those guys were going to do next.
I love that punch up with Madison Rain getting hot. Like that would have been such a fun scene to produce too. I mean, it almost would have been. I almost feel like because Madison Rain's so good too with her one-liners. Like I felt like that's one where you probably could have gotten way too much good content that you can show down the line on like a special that what I mean. That's just funny outtakes and stuff like that. Like I bet they would have had too much good footage that it couldn't even make.
You could have done off of that, like they send her out super blazed up, right? To go, she has to go back to work.
Actually, she could have just commented just on his hair. It's like, oh my God, I think his hair looks purple to me. Like it is purple. So funny.
And then later we see her down like catering, like Josh Matthews looking for her to do the things. And you could do the shit from what was Anger Management. The hot chick with the cake is like the chocolate.
I was just say the cake all over her face. Yeah.
She's like, Madison, you ready to go? She turns around like, are you ready? And she got cake all over, dude. And she's just blazed in the fucking, scene. Like,
I probably would have killed the Heat from earlier in the show, but I would have then, because I always like to think of, you have the reaction shot of pans over to RVD, if Katie Forbes, and he looks at Katie and goes, stupid stoners. You know what I mean?
Yeah, rookies, something along those.
Rookies. That's good. That's the line.
I remember my first joint.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, that shit, man. That you can, and that was our DCW of worlds in a scene, right, bro. So just saying yes to a choice, and I'm going to add my own on it, and just take a little bit from you this week, and next week. She get called in the office by D'Amore and officed or something for being stoned on the job. Those guys get no heat whatsoever or whatever, but like any of that, and she's just straight laced after that. You know what I mean? Oh man, all that shit is hilarious. Or she just happens to wander into have to go interview RVD, and the room is smoke filled after she gets fucking reamed out by D'Amore, and she gets high again. Not her fault. Second hand goes back out, and D'Amore fucking, are you kidding me? Are you, you know, like let it be happenstance all the time. There's so many games we can play out, dude.
Well, after that, guys, we've got the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers, taking on Willie Mack. For those who are unaware of the storyline situation, Brian Myers took over Willie Mack's interview time last week, and that angered Willie Mack. So he attacked Brian Myers, and thus we have this match. Mack floored Myers with a shoulder tackle, arm dragged by Mack. Myers snap-mirrored Mack, landed a spinal tap. We see a surprise with the Hurricane Rana. Myers gets his
go. If you gotta read it like a wrestler, but otherwise just get to the finish because that's all that fucking mattered.
That's what I was going to. Anyway. So he followed it with
like a wrestler. You got to read it like a wrestler, otherwise.
No, exactly. How many holds did they have? I want to know. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't count how many holds they had. Myers rolled up Mack with a handful of tights for the win. What'd you think of this match, Theodore Fancy?
Well, he pulled the tights the wrong way. That was number one. When you are actually trying to get leverage on somebody, and it's a common. I hate to say this because he has a lot of experience and he's talented, but a lot of younger wrestlers will pull the tights the wrong way. When you pull it upwards, and you can even see as I'm pulling my hands back, my momentum goes backwards. And in actuality, if you were to pull that way, it would cause the other guy to be able to roll through easier. Versus instead, you pull the tights down and pull them down if you're holding the tights, almost like you're giving them a wedgie. And so that, again, that's one of those nuanced things that honestly most people would watch and not understand. And so that truly is a nitpicky thing because you still had the visual of him pulling the tights and people that otherwise, don't think of the physical mechanics of it. Yes, it looks like he cheated to win. And so that in of itself was fine. And the thing that really sold this, though, was Willie Mack's facial reaction at the end. And so I got to put over that. And certainly the heat in that was the camera turned to Willie Mack and him looking at the ref. And visually, I mean, Willie Mack was able to still tell that story of him being pissed off that he stole the win. And so, again, the finish, like Ben said, is what people remember, what matters. So in a sense, I thought it was fine. It certainly did more business for Brian Myers this week than what we saw him in his debut against Eddie Edwards. That being said, I still don't know who Brian Myers is as the professional. You know what I mean? The professional wrestler, the most professional wrestler. I still don't understand, what that character means or who that is, other than he goes around saying he's professional. But this did more business as far as getting him heat here compared to what he's done so far.
So he's the opposite. It's got to be the opposite game, because if you're the professional and you're cheating to win, that's not very professional, is it? Right? Like finding a way to do that. So he's a heel who cheats, but calls himself that. So we better see that going forward, because otherwise that tight pull didn't mean shit. Now we have this back and forth match to get our shit in left and right and to get to a tights pull. A real professional would be able to out wrestle and beat that guy in a quicker, and maybe in that time limit. But if not, if you're going to cheat, why would you wait all that time to fucking pull the tights? You'd set yourself up to do it earlier, beat him in 90 seconds and go, I'm the professional. I beat you in 90 fucking seconds. And then you can have a 90-second or less match. And if he can't beat you, then on to the next one. I can beat you in 90 seconds. Come up with a new way to do it. Like, you don't go and work a 12, 13-minute match only to pull tights to go over, dude. Like, that's, if you're going to do it, you had that in your mind earlier, and you would do
it. You could play it up easily. What's a professional? Ring awareness. Well, I guess you shouldn't have fallen right by the ropes. You should have been aware of the ropes. You know what I mean? Like little things like that. It's just small.
Yeah, he can, and there's no tape review where he's breaking down the guy's mistakes and things like that. Like, it's just another moniker to put on a T-shirt that's not going to sell.
If he was doing more technically based, I guess, moves within his repertoire, like there's a wrestler out there I watch, he's on the indies and I've seen him on New Japan, Daniel Makabe. He's a very technically based wrestler, if you will. If he was doing something like that, would that maybe play more into the professional wrestler aspect, Ted?
Certainly anything can help define that, and not just saying it and having a chip on your shoulder, which again, we have, another character on the show that's kind of already doing that and way more punched up in the Maniac Eric Young. So I feel like there is potential there for the professional character doing anything with other than just calling himself the professional.
Or, he could come out in a singlet and just only wrestle, right? Like a wrestler, just stand there in a stance and only, do mat-based moves, if you will. But we go into Wrestle House afterwards. We'll get into something better here. Cousin Jake tells Cody that Larry D in a sports coat isn't Larry D anymore. He's Lawrence D now.
Yeah, this pissed me off right here, this line.
Really?
Like, to put over the Steven Urkel thing from Family Matters, which was 24 years ago. Like,
it's a rare condition in this day and age.
Dude, we already know we've been watching Wrestle House. We don't need the Urkel reference. We know that he was mystified. Like, that's bad plotty a line that I would not have allowed in the script. If I saw it, I would have cut that. They already know. If they don't know that by now, we failed at our job of creating that. And Larry D would have too. He hasn't. He's gotten it.
What about people that never have seen that? Like, for instance, again, this is where you might get on to me for not having my references, but I didn't get that reference because I never really watched that show.
Exactly. So now you're making a reference people don't know because it's not timely at all. It's a super Generation X cut. Generation Z wouldn't know about it. Generation Y maybe. And, that shit is just like, why would you put that in there? That's like D'Amore and Callis and those guys sitting around remembering that shit like from their 20s and shit because that was a big thing. But like now that's a throwaway line. I
just want to be clear. Which line are you referring to? The Lawrence?
He says that Lawrence, he's not Larry D, he's Lawrence D. Or like, remember that time Steven Urkel became Stefan?
He explained the joke after that.
Well, that was kind of it. It's a reference to Family Matters.
Right.
The nerd makes a machine, Urkel. He goes inside the machine and he comes out a cool, dapper fucking dude as Stefan. He's no longer Steven Urkel. The whole thing is based around his love for the daughter who he can never have, the hot chick. So it's just like, like, dude, we get it from the great story you've already told. We don't need that reference, that 90s reference in there. That's bad show don't tell. Like, that's plotty stuff.
And I guess I can see that someone that's maybe more nuanced, because I'll be honest in this word, I'll just, I guess, politely disagree, because to me, I didn't get the reference, but I took it as watching this scene as, of course, the fancy. He was trying to play up like, he's not no blue collar Larry D. He's the lover. He's Lawrence. And then
he got put under a spell by Rosemary.
Right, but the reason I like that though is because we had a beat later when Johnny Bravo finally barged in and slaps Larry D, and he just made the line of "It's not Lawrence anymore." And like, to me, I was that change up. That to me, I like the Lawrence reference, because when he did that line later in the scene, then he didn't have to say anything other than, okay, now he's not the lover anymore. He's the ass kicker. And then to me, that's what turned the character and made me more interested in seeing the matchup, because now he's turned back to the ass kicker.
Wow, I was waiting for the next step for him to turn to the camera and break the fourth wall and go, "Did I do that?" At the
end. Now that would have been bad. That would have been bad.
I'm not going to take this. I'm going home.
Yeah, dude, just like there's things that can get cut. I've been guilty of that shit before too, of like, all right, let's make it half short, twice strong, jizza. You know what I mean? Instead of like getting all this predicated stuff in, we got to strip it back to the bare bones. And what are we just trying to say? Feed it to them as best we can now.
I will say, speaking of show don't tell, I did like him laying across the table like a naked guy on a bearskin rug when Rosemary walked in and almost barfed. That take was really good, I will say.
Yeah, very, like, he looked at it, he's like, yeah, this is the right idea. I'm gonna do it. He took that second of like, the best acting we do is when we say nothing at all. It's just him in the room looking, is everything set? There's something missing. What is it?
So to set that up, as you mentioned, Rosemary appears. She's getting ready for her date with Lawrence D, if you will, in the living room. And Taya Valkyrie is still intoxicated as she falls off the couch. She sees Rosemary
too, and they no sold. Like, you just look at her, bro. She takes the fucking header.
You're not wearing a toga, and then she falls. Yeah, that was great. But yes, so just as Rosemary's about to go get ready for her date, Alicia runs up and says, "Hey, I blah, 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 bad advice before, but obviously it's clear to see that, you're trying to make Bravo jealous and you shouldn't be doing this. And then, as you mentioned, Lawrence D is getting ready for his dinner date, and he sprays himself with cologne, looks down at the table, agrees it's a good idea, then gets on the table all sprawled out. And Rosemary walks in, and she tries to let him down gently. But in the midst of that, Tommy Dreamer convinces Bravo, "Hey, bro, are you gonna be an idiot? Go get your girl." And he tries to go get his girl, and he slaps Lawrence as he charges in, and then thus this angers Larry D, as Larry D has reemerged now, and then Dreamer pops up and says it's time for a match. Now we got Larry D taking on Johnny Bravo, which, I mean, we knew that this was going to be quick because, right, Johnny Bravo is not a wrestler. I mean, Larry knocked him out with the stiff right hand, and that was the match. Winner was Larry D. Did you want to go over the fallout afterwards, or did you have any comments on the lead up into this, Mr. Fancy?
This was probably the most effective character building squash match I've seen in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest, in 3 moves, it meant more. This squash meant more again than any other squash match I've seen in the last 20 years, and that's a compliment. It was just how it was well worked. It was character developing, and I thought the match itself was, it was fine. It was just what it was, but they sold it well and it was meaningful. So I can appreciate that.
I could have used a comedy sell at the end. I wanted a belly to belly suplex on him, and then he rolls out, and this dude does that. Like, you ever get the wind knocked out of you for real, and you're like, and while he's trying to like talk, now put that on trying to talk to Rosemary.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
the stomach, and he looks at her. He does the line, turn back around, then it's the one to the face.
Yeah.
I would have punched it up. You're right. I could have punched up a little bit more.
That's all I wanted. But dude, he's another guy who gets it completely. We saw him on what is their Tough Enough called?
Gut check challenge.
Gut check challenge, right? As breaking kayfabe. And just having massive respect for the business and the ring and who's in there. And as a coach and paying your dues and a guy who feeds his family. So to see that side of him, that Rip Rogers side, I was like, fuck yeah, bro. And then what's he do? He goes from referee to little valet bit to being one of the main storylines. This is where you take something small and you grow it into something long-term beautiful, dude. This has been a whole ride since he switched out with of being a ref. This whole thing is his storyline, and we're on probably month 13 of it now, maybe. Like, that's awesome shit of how you can, if you're invested, we go all the way along, and his character has stakes, absolute stakes. His shirts are so bad it pisses you off, and everything is a choice, is a conscious choice to make his part of the show, no matter how small or how important, means something, dude. He totally gets it. And this was a great key turn in the love story where you're going through the pages of the book and you can't put it down. You want to see, is he finally going to tell her he likes her? Da, da, da. And as soon as he does, boom, that sets off the powder keg that we've been building this whole time, the tension. You're jealous of me. And next week it's winner take everything. What's everything? Everything. Okay. Like, all right, dude. Like,
Valkyrie was amazing in all of this. Just drunk Valkyrie.
You gotta Cruella de Vil it. That's what she does very well, dude. She's as sexy as Marilyn Monroe. She's as evil as Cruella de Vil, and it's fucking phenomenal. She can show ass. Not saying not just in a sexy way, but show ass and make a fool of herself. And it doesn't. That's what we say in wrestling when you're blowing off your heat and looking stupid as a heel. You got to show ass. And it doesn't hurt her at all. You know, not even in her showing ass actually makes the payoffs that much more. Like, it's me getting my beard shaved off at the end of a match, and I'm going crazy and crying or whatever like that they got to me, things along those lines. So they all have been building this underneath the surface, and this was a key turn night in that storyline, and it was really, really good.
Yeah, well, after the match, as you mentioned, Bravo tells Rosemary that he should have just been honest with Valkyrie from the beginning. Of course, Valkyrie storms in and Bravo breaks the news to her that he has feelings for Rosemary. Valkyrie tells Rosemary that this is all her fault, challenges Rosemary to a winner takes all match. And I guess that'll be happening either next week or at the pay-per-view.
So do you put her over, Beast, or you have the heel take the heat right there? Because this is, almost a rescue the princess situation from the evil queen, except Bravo is the princess and Rosemary is the dragon slayer. You have him just almost get there, and then King Koopa takes princess and go away, or do you pay it off? And you don't pay it off.
Because that's the story, and in this is situational, and this is where Taya Valkyrie is Taya Valkyrie, and by that I mean she's not rather than identifying her as a babyface or a heel, she needs to still play up that she's the bitchy heel, but now she's lost something that was otherwise important to her, so she has to then try to outbitch Rosemary to try to get Johnny Bravo back, who essentially is the princess here. So I see it as Rosemary gets Bravo under her spell, and Taya Valkyrie plays the game of getting him back. It almost has to humble herself in a way to do it. And finally, you have the moment of she has to break the spell. Well, what in fairy tales, what happens when the spell
the enchanted kiss has to happen? Yeah.
The big kiss and the spell's broken, and then he screws over Rosemary, and then all is right in the world. They could build this up over.
He screws over Taya, and then Rosemary's up, and they go off happily ever after.
Yes, yeah, or screws over Rosemary and after the kiss, and that awakens him from the spell, and exactly. And that, to me, it built up right. And somebody listen and think it sounds cheesy, but if it's built up correctly, that will be a powerful, awesome moment that they could build if they choose the direction.
How about when Lumpy Magoo kissed Serena, dude?
Exactly.
We've
never seen any affection, really.
No.
You see Johnny Bravo be very affectionate towards Taya, over leaps and bounds over affectionate for her, but she hasn't shown 1 ounce of affection towards Bravo, which is why if it were to happen and she could even take a second of hesitation and realize, fuck it, I got to do it, and pull him in for the thing. Bravo is starstruck. He's out of the spell. Bam. And, that's when the finish happens, and happily ever after.
I think it's one of the best long-term storylines I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
And not only that, if you guys want to see the early beginnings of it, you can go back and listen to the Impact Attack with Ben Hamin and Big Ray Hernandez before I was even on the show, where they interviewed Johnny Bravo, right as he was just transitioning out from a ref to an on-screen character. So right around that time when he just started with Taya Valkyrie. So
yeah, man,
check that out.
He's put in the time. He's put in the time and the work. He respects the hell out of the business, and so. I'm just very happy that he's getting this opportunity, and even more so because he can do what he needs to do to get the story over, and he's shown just that.
I want to make sure I get my plug in here. Johnny Bravo is also a friend of our host, Tom E. Bryant, who's the host of the Pro Wrestling Reflection podcast. So you can check that out each and every Sunday here on HamiMediaGroup.podbean.com. So then we also had a couple segments with Rhino and Heath, right? Because
just on the Wrestle House in general. So I would expect that based on how they're building it, that also, if assuming Rosemary gets the win next week, that would be the season finale, if you will, of Wrestle House. And I assume the other half of that would be the Deaners need to find out who gets their beard. I still like what we pitched last week with the surprise Sandman cameo and doing that gimmick. But then this is something I feel like I wanted this comment on, because I think this Wrestle House thing has been great. And I think it's something they should do seasonally. I think if they were to do it all the time, it would be too much. But I'd say, maybe every, 2 to 3 months, you have a new season of Wrestle House where you can rotate characters in and out. They got a lot of great guys they could do it with right away. Like we talked about earlier, I think the Rascals would be hugely hilarious. Scenario. How that they could smoke up other characters within the Wrestle House too. And that's a whole other series of scenes. But
Rascals, Moose, Madison Rain. You could probably even go EY if you wanted to in there. He would give you some fucking absolute gold. Who else would you throw in there? Rob Van Dam, or maybe not Rob, but Katie Forbes. Just have her missing Rob all the time and but want to do sexy shit. Like, that would draw, bro. Like, there's a lot of great people whose little worlds intersecting will be phenomenal.
And especially people that might not have a lot of character development. Like we talked about Larry D, and talked about this was more character defining and these little bits, over the last couple of weeks than anything he's done in the ring. And so that's where you could take, say like a TJP and Falaba, someone who hasn't had a lot of character development. And so I think that's where you can intersplice interesting characters with other wrestlers that are very tough, but maybe haven't had a chance to establish who they are. And this is a great mechanism and vehicle to help elevate and enhance your characters and get them more over without them actually, having, well, I guess they do wrestle, but in the context of Wrestle House, and that can be its own standalone thing that gets over. And I would do it seasonally and rotate the guys in and out. I think that's
Ethan Page would steal the show. Yeah, the North, that guy's so good in the improv moments, man. He would be fucking killing it on there.
The only thing I'm saying, more just thinking it through, is okay. So think as a writer, so this Wrestle House thing really only happened because of Rosemary doing it. So I feel like the only small thing is I would want to see like some transfer of power. Like Wrestle House is about to end, and Tommy Dreamer wants it to continue on. He's like, well, think of the merchandise. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, I don't want any of that, and finds a way to find and passes the power to Tommy Dreamer, so that way we can continue to have Wrestle House forever.
Well, I think at the end, it could be, she uses her crazy powers. Like they're all outside the house. Everybody gets out. Rosemary's going to explode. And whatever the Goku Dragon's Ball Z shit is, the house fucking is illuminated and she just blows it into some other, realm or what have you. And I mean, the house, like they do some CGI where it comes off the foundation or gets destroyed. And then in the beginning of that, Rosemary can do some seance, and all of a sudden the sky opens up and the house comes down like Wizard of Oz in some new place. And then you just hit the 90s music, Wrestle House 2, we're back. You know what I mean? Like any cheesy 80s, early 90s music on that shit would work.
Yeah.
Well, I hope for the second season of Wrestle House, they bring in a pretty well-known doctor. I think that doctor could make a huge impact there. Maybe some psych evaluations.
Wait, so I heard was there a clip of something?
Dr. Stevie, is that the doctor you're talking about, or Dr. Teddy?
Yeah, it broke up. Your clip broke up there.
Oh well, botch the line. What's next?
Well, I was going to put over Rhino early on in the night. Talked about he was upset that Reno Scum, of course, jumped him and took his money. But he also, this was after following that Heath Slater also cuts another one of those Heaths for Impact, saying that Rhino needs a tag team partner. So just kind of more of this Heath Slater and Rhino stuff. Nothing really more here. I mean, Rhino, of course, cut a good promo ending with his gore signature line. So not going to hate on that for his part of his promo of challenging Reno Scum and trying to get
more out of these guys, though, man. Like,
of course,
okay, they're doing comedy, but like it's these little bits and then gore. That's just, there's more that we can get out of both of them at a higher level, dude. Like, even if it's at a low level comedy, like slapstick, Three Stooges. All right, but let's come up with some interesting bits instead of these little 45-second green screen promos where we just get over taglines in front of funny B-roll footage in the background, dude. There's better options for both these guys. They put in enough time. They let them go run free for a minute. Give them a camera crew and in 2 hours to go shoot something. They'll come up with it.
Teddy, Dr. Ted,
right on the money. I honestly, I don't have anything to add or contribute. It was very, very fancy.
All right. Well, that was pretty much it as far as all the backstage vignettes, other than EC3s. Did you guys? We can get into this here. So EC3 cuts a VTR package. Talks about the best moment he ever had was in 2015 when he beat Kurt Angle, became the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and then unfortunately, his career kind of went downhill from there. Mentions that the only way that he can, transcend, if you will, to the next phase of his life or career is to destroy his previous self. And that starts by destroying this TNA championship. Unfortunately, Moose, and I like the fact in this promo, he puts over Moose. He goes, I don't care how you got the championship. I understand what it's like to be a TNA champion. So I did like that they placed the importance there. On this championship, if you will, but it looks like we're going to maybe next week, a couple weeks from now, we're going to get some sort of interaction between EC3 and Moose. Interesting to note, Moose wasn't on the show at all. He didn't come out, complain. I know that he put out a tweet maybe over the last week where he was like, "Give me back my title," or no, his exact words were, give me back my fucking title, which I thought was great. But on Twitter, but that was about it. So there was nothing from Moose on the show at all tonight. No package. It would have been cool to see him. I got a lawyer coming to get you or something like that. It was just a simple EC3 package.
Was there a stooge off that Moose showed up at the ROH taping or no?
There was not the stooge off. I didn't know that.
I don't know if he did either. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like, for him to not be on there, I'm looking for reasons why they would drop anything that way instead of keeping any little bit of business going.
Dr. Ted?
I haven't heard anything about that, but I know that's conversation we were having, I think, off the air, was that if they're going to put EC3 in a situation where he's going to Ring of Honor, it would really only make sense, because really all that does, especially assuming that EC3 is putting over a Ring of Honor talent. Otherwise, why would you bring in outside talent just to go over on your talent? But I think it would at least they'll benefit Impact if they at least had a part of a rationale as far as giving a mechanism for EC3 to take the loss while still furthering the story between Moose and EC3. And I think that an easy solution to that would have been EC3 has the match, and at some point Moose comes in and grabs, to take his title back, and that allows the whoever EC3 is working the opportunity to go over on them, and then they can brawl off, and then people are interested in Impact, but you've also had a chance to put over the Ring of Honor guy as well. And it's really hard when you do cross promotional stuff to do double business or to do business for both companies, but that would be one scenario where I think it would benefit both companies versus just going into the Ring of Honor and taking a loss without any other storyline development on Impact's part. I think unfortunately doesn't do good business for Impact. So that's where I'm not sure, if they plan on doing something like that or not.
Did you like this package with EC3?
Yes, this was the first time I felt like I really cared about what EC3 wanted. And it's because he clearly defined what his motivations are and who he is as a character, and that we haven't had that from him really until this point. And so now we know his plan, I assume, is to make a public display out of destroying that TNA championship belt. And so at some point in the future, we're going to get that. And it made me intrigued as far as what's going to happen here and how is this going to go down.
Ben, am I having a Mandela effect? Is the strap always been white? Has Moose been carrying around this TNA championship and the strap's been white, or has it been black?
He might have got it redone, sent it to JD Michaels. Who knows?
I kept looking at this package with the EC3 holding. I was like, when did the strap turn white?
Good thing to do. So people have been seeing Pat Buck on WWE with Nia, and I hope that pays off. I got to work with Buck for a year with Rob Conway and the Insurgency, and then managed him for a while. And there's been a lot of iterations of Buck, like a honky tonk man version, a kung fu version, whatever, a buzzkill version, just straight wrestler. But for a while, he was in a tag team with JD Michaels,
top shelf talent
in OVW. And JD is a really good gear maker, and he makes weightlifting belts as well. Like he made stuff for Ryback, for Cody, for I think Hogan even. But he would make their outfits, and they stood out like against everybody else on the roster, and he put time into it. But when JD and him became champions, every week for TV, JD would replate the belts in maybe like every 2 weeks in a different color leather. So it were red, white, yellow, and it looked badass, dude. It wasn't cheap.
It matched the gear. They would have great gear, and then the belt color scheme would match their gear. Yeah, it was cool. It was different. I really liked that.
So I don't think it started as black, but Moose being
it does. It's actually somebody in the chat room clarified that they actually turned it white at Slammiversary, so it did just got recently changed.
Okay, well, there you go. But
yeah,
that just reminded me of JD and doing that. That's not a bad thing to do, to look like if you're the professional and you want, right. You know what I mean? Like that's that's what top shelf talent was all about. So, yeah, man, like that's that would be a good thing for him to do. I don't know if that was whatever, but when it comes to the title is now the story and the hostage, this guy's got to break it to clear his past. So now Moose, who's the heel, is actually the baby face because he's got to go rescue the title because it's about the belt. So what kind of match are we going to have here? Probably a ladder match. That's where their stakes are. One guy's going to destroy it. and the other guy wants it. Why does the other guy want it? It's a debunked title that he's trying to make one way or the other. So are we really going to destroy it? Would we want to do that at Ring of Honor? Would Impact let you do that at Ring of Honor because it's neutral ground and it looks like it's getting done there? I don't know, man. Like, just a little bit of confusion in here and the stake and who's the drawn out heel and baby and what their it is. But Man Beast, I agree with you. He did clarify in the promo, and that was better than these, just he's back type of things. What's he going to do?
This is the first time I care about seeing what is the next beat in this story. What is the next part of this story? You know what I mean? Before there really wasn't, he was going after Moose, but why? Now we understand. It's he wants to get rid of everything that he represented as far as TNA goes, and destroying that belt is part of it. Now, this very pie in the sky, and this, I don't think anything's going on. This is where I truly am out of the loop as far as business goes. But do you think there's any possibility of any kind of merger between Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor? It certainly seems at this point in time it would be, if anything, a benefit to Ring of Honor with all the press that's been going on, unfortunately, for them.
No, I don't think so, because it doesn't cost them anything to produce really Ring of Honor. And for them, it's actually cheaper for them to have the programming on their syndication and all the markets. It's just something that they can use to fill time. So it really doesn't cost them anything to produce it, and then it's their own title, so they can fill ads and make money off of it. Pretty much 100% controlling it.
Certainly would benefit from better distribution as well. Do you think there's some kind of business dealing to where, perhaps they're also, if there were a merger, let's say, it's something where, it's because, Impact's going to allow their programming to go on Sinclair to give them better distribution and get them potentially back on the map. I don't know. I'm literally just spitballing and hypothesizing if you all think there's any possibility of something like that.
I don't think Sinclair gives a shit about ROH. Nope. It's such a small thing on their media radar.
Well, exactly, but it's cheap programming, and that's where if I think one thing that hurts Impact right now is simply distribution, and so that's where if they were to say, you know what, we're willing to drop it for free or cheap, just if you will distribute, what we're putting on, so more people can see it. I don't see that necessarily being a bad thing, even if it's just a temporary short-term deal. And this is where
it's not bad, but I don't think it's going down. We would have gotten wind of it.
True.
But I think ROH is more of a toxic property right now. So, it's better for Impact to fly and keep going solo. Some Instagram girls can change it all overnight for them.
Yes. Agreed.
Well, as you had noted that EC3 apparently made a surprise, or he's going to be making an appearance, I guess, at Ring of Honor. That EC3 has an agreement with Ring of Honor in addition to a short agreement with Impact. That's what's being reported by the sheets, that he negotiated deals with both companies that are not exclusive to either one. ROH did not work with Impact to get EC3 on their show, as his deals allow him to do both. As such, there will be no creative conflict. There's also noted that even though the tapings will be built around the Pure Title tournament, EC3 will not be a part of that tournament. So that was from 4 or 5 days ago. That was the last update we got on EC3 and Ring of Honor. But before we get into the main event here, which is the 30-minute Knockouts Iron Man match, is what they like to call it. Of course, we want to put over our sponsors, Stevie Richards Fitness. Go, guys, get yourself a pair of resistance bands. Download the program, pay $14.99 or $19.99 or whatever the second price is. And, you can get yourself the 12 and 16 week program, get yourself all squared away in these times of COVID and Corona. And, I'm going to try and work out as best as I can to get out of this bunker.
They want to open the gyms, but you got to wear a face mask the whole time. Like,
right.
Dude, you should see me on the bike, puddles of sweat. You want me to wear a face mask? I'll be waterboarding myself over there.
I'll say at the gyms here in Louisville, it's at least a little more reasonable that you have to walk in. If you're going from station to station, you have to put a mask on. But once you're at your workout place, you can take it off and work out as usual. And they've spaced out the machines.
I just got to hit the bike to get my cardio up because I can't run or jog.
I cannot imagine doing that with a mask on. So fortunately, I'm at least glad that at the gyms here,
let a motherfucker come over and tell me to put it on while I'm mid fucking set. We're going to have some problems.
So yes, go to StevieRichardsFitness.com and get yourself in shape, and then nobody will fuck with you.
If you get the Stevie Richards Fitness program, you don't have to worry about any of that shit.
You don't worry about shit. You don't got to worry about me kicking your ass. If
right.
You get Stevie Richards.
Exactly. And then maybe you can, become a karate fighting champion, and then Bin Hamin will beat you up then too.
I did just subscribe to Shane Fazen's Fight Tips non-paid endorsement here, so I'm going to be doing a review of that in the Stevie Richards Fitness Hamin Media Group, SRF HHMG, that you get to be a part of when you do sign up for Stevie's program, at a great price. But I'm going to review that. That's only $9 a month, and I like Shane Fazen, Fazen. You can check him out on Instagram. He's always got good fight tips. Fighttips.com is the name of his site, but I'm looking forward to doing his program.
Awesome. And of course, go ahead and check out thebrosters.com for your cup of Russo Bro coffee, as well as an assortment of other coffees there. You can also get yourself a different kind of coffee while you get Brosters.
Coffee.
Try all the different coffees. And then, of course, you can also go to ZordosOliveOil.com, get yourself some of the finest artisan olive oil to cook with. And if you're in the Rome, New York, or the surrounding areas, check out Dippin' Donuts. I saw that video Ted made. It looked really good. I wanted to
we're posting that tomorrow for sure, man.
Yeah, it looks good.
Great stuff all the way around from all our sponsors. And while we were on here, a Zordos olive oil order came in, ZordosOliveOil.com, ultra premium Greek olive oil. Right? You like that?
Yeah.
And since we're talking about Dimitri, of course, would be remiss to say not to be sure to, if you're a star, especially if you're a Star Trek fan, tune into the new podcast. What's the name of it?
It's called Triple D's Star Trek Podcast.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to stir the pot with the Star Trek Star Wars debate. I'm waiting for that to
going down.
Well, I got a debate here for you. On the latest edition of Light the Fuse, Bin Hamin, Silvio announced that his dog is now the mascot and said that Boz is not the mascot anymore.
So Boz Ben Chompin's not the mascot. We'll see about that.
Apparently, there's a war for the mascot now, so check that out. A mascot war. The dogs aren't actually fighting, just to be clear. Let's get into the main event here. We've got Deonna Purrazzo. She took on Jordynne Grace. Deonna Purrazzo walks away with this championship still intact. 30 minutes back and forth between women. Not that there's anything wrong with that. How did you think this played out, Mr. Theodore Fancy?
I'm going to redirect a question back to you as well as Ben.
Oh.
What do you think the business of this match was?
I guess getting Deonna Purrazzo over. I mean, she won via submission 2-1, just to be clear.
So it's to make Deonna Purrazzo a babyface?
No, she's still a heel. Right?
Is she?
I mean, that's how she's been kind of presented since she's kind of come into the company.
Other than using that belt on the finish, which also, when you want to build Jeopardy for, so this is where I assumed that Jordynne Grace was the babyface, but they had the babyface get the first fall. So one, I didn't feel the Jeopardy was there. You finally had Deonna Purrazzo cheat, spending over, I'd say 25 minutes. She would get vicious here and there, but never really doing anything that was overly heelish. There was no, scratching or grabbing the ropes or pulling tights. It wasn't until the very end that she showed some heelishness, but then still, despite that, in the end, ended up winning cleanly, where, it could have even been as simple as she has the hold, and then, because of their placement near the rope, she's able to wedge her feet up on the bottom rope and get a little extra leverage, and then that causes the tap out. You know what I mean? I just felt like there's more opportunity for me here. And I'm not taking away anything because they put on a wrestling clinic, and that's where it almost hurts me to even have to critique something like that. But I always think of what is going to motivate people. What are you taking away from the fans that is going to build heat that they want to see the next time? Or who are you building up so that the way the fans can live vicariously through for them to want to see them continue on? And unfortunately, I think from a story standpoint, sure, it made Deonna look strong, but so what? What's it mean if she doesn't have heat? And I felt like, she used the belt, but I felt like if you just watch the last minute of the match, after that, the way the final seconds took place, it did not come across as an overly heelish way to win.
Well, I mean, both of these people realistically haven't been really babyface or heel if we look at this whole feud, because I mean, at least, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it more of the jaded sense, right? Because we analyze how Jordynne Grace acts in and out of the ring. So to me, she's a heel. But, and then you've got, Deonna Purrazzo, who kind of came in and has been, she's kind of been almost in that in-betweener. Like she's a heel. She can't, but she can also come off as a baby face, as someone who's kind of confident, like a confident badass chick as well. So I mean, there definitely hasn't been a clear dictation on who the good guy and bad guy is in the storyline. But as you mentioned, they put a clinic of a match. I mean, Bonnie Hammer.
I just felt like there's more. Here's the thing, and it comes down to what Rip would teach us, and it's the baby face. The heel should never out wrestle the baby face. The heel should have to try to find shortcuts to get on top, and then be able to utilize those technical maneuvers that she's the virtuoso of wrestling about. But this was very back and forth, and that's, to an extent okay. But at the end, you should let whoever you're establishing, and I don't necessarily like to use babyface heel, but say the protagonist is out wrestling the heel, and the heel has to find the shortcut to end up going over in the end. And to me, you still could have played up almost everything they did in there, except just little moments of heelishness where finally Deonna Purrazzo becomes so desperate after she's tried to pull the ropes, pull the tights, stretch, claw, poke the eyes, that finally nothing can put Jordynne Grace away. And so when the referee gets knocked down, fuck it, I'm going to grab that belt. And then that's when you go into the finish. And to me, again, maybe I'm just being too nitpicky here, but I felt like these girls put on such a great wrestling clinic that it just a few little moments of getting heat could have made a world of difference here and make it mean that much more. And that's not taking away from any of the work they put in this match. Because again, I almost hate to say these things because they put on a wrestling clinic, and I'm a huge fan of just good wrestling. But I felt like there were opportunities here for more story development, more character development, and make people care more about what happens next with this story and with this championship.
Yeah, I don't know if it facilitated the storyline or their characters. I agree. To me, this is these girls going, we want to wrestle like men. We're going to show we can wrestle like men. And I love watching Serena when she does it. Neither of these girls do it as good as Serena does, ODB or Beth Phoenix, but they're right up in there now, and they're making their name. They're young girls, and they did show and prove right here. I think they wanted to keep it ROH baby to show that. That's why we didn't get a lot of heat and whatnot. But in a Rip way, we would have started out with wrestling and then devolved into someone's getting frustrated and they have to get heat in a way that's, outside of the wrestling confines. A strike, really a punch, is heat in wrestling. Like, so we should have wrestled to build to the punch instead of trading back and forth strong style like we did in the final third of this. But and
now imagine this. Let's say they didn't do any of that, and that's fair. Maybe they just want to go out there and wrestle. But I still think the finish itself, imagine the drama if they would have a few seconds sooner had Deonna Purrazzo put Jordynne in the hold, say even at 30 seconds, and Jordynne will not tap. And she keeps trying to get to the ropes, and they finally wiggle in the way to, like I said, where Deonna Purrazzo can finally notice, like, it gets down to the last 10 seconds. And I'd even have, the announcer, let the competitors know, 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds remaining, 10. And then that's where Deonna's like, fuck, I'm not going to get the win. And then that's when she puts her feet on the ropes, wrenches up even more. And then finally Jordynne Grace, after holding on for that length of time, has to tap. Then you've not only put more heat on Deonna, but you've elevated Jordynne Grace because she's one tough bitch that only tapped out because the heel cheated.
Could be. I would have maybe even gone 2-2, let Grace come back in that same time period, leave it as a tie, and let them go an hour.
Sure. I'm fine with that too. But something that I felt like this did not further the story. Like, now I feel like it's done. Like, where do they go from here? You know what I mean?
It wasn't the fanciest of finishes, is what you're trying to say.
It was not fancy.
When in doubt, pinky out, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
Well, that's it. That's Impact Wrestling. Overall,
good show.
I mean, man. I thought it was a good show. The Wrestle Talk stuff was obviously, I think, the highlight of this show, in my opinion. Johnny Swinger, of course, stole the show like he does each and every week, and he's going to continue to steal the show each and every week because he's going to be also, you stooge it off, working with our boy Stevie Richards. So there's only more great things to come from Mr. Johnny Swinger on Impact Wrestling.
We're excited, man, to help facilitate in any way we can the business, the real good brothers, the dudes who have opportunity to really cash in on this thing instead of waiting for the call, or once they've got something established, how do we help them get max value out of it? Because they might not have all the tools at their disposal. Meanwhile, we got a whole hardware tool and die shop of producers and crushers over here ready to help, make that stuff happen. So we're excited to get those opportunities as we seek them out, and we see potential in our friends, and we just want to push them to greatness. That's what we're really doing at Hamin Media Group all the time, 24/7. You guys got to push yourselves too, because we've got about 12 days left on the 5-star star search for the Hamin affiliate, where you could be the next Hamin affiliate, have a instant 35,000, 40,000, actually probably over 100,000. You combine Russo brand and Stevie Richards brand followers by joining up with us. We're looking for podcasts on anything that you're a pro on. I don't care what it is. If you're inspired, you've been wanting to get in this game, now's your opportunity. And the hardest thing to do is build an audience. Well, you could be plugged right in. We're going to narrow it down to the top 5. We've been getting a lot of great submissions already. So don't procrastinate. Today's the day. Make something today. Make some art and send it our way. You never know what that pebble in the pond could cause a huge tidal wave on the other side of the ocean. So you want to join up with us? Send it in where, Matt?
Hamin Media Group at gmail.com.
That's where
we'll review it for you. Theodore Fancy, how your overall your thoughts and the execution on last night's programming?
No, I know based on probably what everyone hears me say thinks I didn't like it, but it's not true. I think Impact Wrestling for me is probably the most intriguing wrestling program that I've seen in a while. Like I really, when I first started watching, I wasn't sure what to expect when I first started joining you guys for this show. And I've been really intrigued in what they're doing. I just think sometimes I see small opportunities. I can take the good stuff that they're doing and make it even more meaningful. Cause I want nothing more than to see this particular crew succeed, because I feel like they have a lot of really good talent. They clearly are headed in the right direction with a lot of things. And I very much want to find more ways to get this show in front of the eyes of more people. And I think part of that is just finding small moments to either define characters better and thus get them more over, or to be able to get more heat in little ways. So overall, I actually say I enjoyed this program, and I'm looking forward to see where they go from here. If it's not apparent, I think out of all the shows that are on right now, I would most want to write for Impact Wrestling. And it's fun just talking about it. It's getting my creative juices flowing because they're doing such good stuff over here. Like, I don't think I would be as inspired to think of, these little nuances if they weren't already putting out quality work. So kudos to them. And I hope they continue to do well. And, if anyone on the, because I know sometimes we have a couple guys that listen, if anyone, just wanted to just spitball some ideas, I'm always all ears for it, because I'm really enjoying the product, and any way we can, I guess, contribute if anyone is listening, then certainly I'd love to do that. But on that point, I did want to have one more thought, and just literally because we were talking about this, and maybe this I'm literally thinking this off the top of my head. What would you think of in regards to Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo? I like leading to a hour match, but what if instead of just that being the next step, we took a step back and allowed more character development, in that Jordan Grace says, you know what, fuck it. If you can't beat him, join him. And Deonna Purrazzo would get the benefit of getting more heat as a heel, to have a little bit of muscle behind her and allow her to go through everyone else on the Impact roster, really establish Deonna Purrazzo's heat. And then when the time finally comes, Jordan Grace picks her spot, if you will, and turns on Deonna Purrazzo and says, I'm ready for my title now, you bitch. And then they go for an hour, and then Jordan Grace ends up winning in the end. And how much more would that mean for that hour match if we had that extra bit of character development over time, which again, establishing more heat on Deonna through Jordan being the muscle, again, is in the end, I think only going to put over Jordan more in the end, assuming both are going to be around for a while. But what do you think about that potentially as a way to lead into that versus going straight into an Iron Man match?
I think you're going to have a lot of fancy panties to wash, extra panties to scrub if you do that. No, I think that's fucking phenomenal, dude. I think anything that we can build that up, that'll get her over to a next level, keep them insulated. They don't have to work as much. We're not looking just to spin in the undercard, because mainly most of their undercard women are in tag teams. And Havoc and Hogan and all them. So no, I think that's a brilliant plan as well. This is the best show in wrestling all week, especially as I have to punch holes in Raw and SmackDown, and there's so many of them. This is at least getting to work with 7th and 8th graders to 10th graders, 12th graders on some things where you don't have to really spell it out for them. And we're not playing with Legos and building blocks anymore. We can actually have a foundation to build off of. I like it. They're doing great work, and I would be happy to, add any creative we can as well all the time. But yeah, man, it's all going down. HackerHamin.podbean.com, The Impact Attack, ProWrestlingTees.com/Ben Hamin. I know some people were buying some shirts this past month. I appreciate that because that money's going to Silvio. He just had his first cognitive test where his concussion doctors yesterday said they put him through the ringer, but he's already seeing a little improvement. So, and awareness of what he is. So you can catch him on Light the Fuse. We had the lovely Jenna Van Muscles on last week as well. We'll be reviewing AEW. I'm not sure when on the off times of what's going on, but that's what was going on with the PWT. I just wanted to make people aware of that. What else is happening? Oh, Next Level Podcast. If you want to talk wrestling at a high level and learn more of the great knowledge that he spreads here on the Impact Attack, you like NXT, well, you got a new champ in Killer Cross. He's hurt. There's plenty of other storylines going on, and we give out great homework with Dr. Ted himself. And where can they send their homework for after listening to the Next Level Podcast?
You can send it in to nextlevelwrestlingreview@gmail.com. This week's homework, if anyone wants to participate for tomorrow, it was simply pick a babyface or a heel currently on the NXT roster and make them the top, or turn them from being babyface or heel to the opposite and make them the top face or heel by the end of the year. And so that's really kind of an open-ended, simply because we were going through TakeOver 30 and didn't know what the results were going to be. So that was this week's homework. And Ben, you actually presented a very interesting homework assignment for the following week. And so for those that want to participate in the following week's homework, it was simply with Killer Cross potentially having that separated shoulder. How can we continue to make him a star and continue to I guess, build his monster?
You can keep the belt
say it.
Now.
Yeah.
How would you do it? How do you protect them and insulate?
Yeah, there we go.
So
and you're saying to keep the title on him. So without necessarily taking him off or having a tournament, how can we, over the next few weeks until Cross is ready to be able to go again, continue to keep the title on him and build his momentum without actually having him wrestle? Is that correct?
Even if the injury is part of it, if he's in there working hurt, can he work another way? He's a martial artist.
I feel like as a healthcare provider though, and having that unstable shoulder, here's the thing with hitting your shoulder out of socket is every time it goes out of socket, you're at increased risk of it happening again. So to me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So even if it's accidentally something, just he takes hits a rope or hits something, you know what I mean? I just feel like the risk of that shoulder coming out again, and then you're further going to compromise that shoulder over the lifetime of your career.
Or you could be a badass like Chris Silvio and work on it for.
That's why I'm the damn doctor and not the promoter. I'll squeeze the goddamn juice out of whoever the fuck I want.
And that's where it comes down to how separated was the shoulder, because there are certain degrees and amounts the shoulder can be separated. So it depends on truly how much it was separated. Did it completely displace or did it come partially displaced? You know what I mean? And that plays a role in how long it's going to take for him to get back. And I'm not privy to that information, but that does play a role in regards to, is he going to be out just a couple weeks or is this going to be a couple months?
Well, if you'd like to hear what it's like to work on a separated shoulder, you can go back and listen to the last Light the Fuse episode where Silvio tells a very interesting story about working on a separated shoulder for a full year, and he'll give you a full idea of what that was like.
Yeah,
very painful. So you can go back and check that out on Light the Fuse, guys. No new episode of Suck My Balls South Park review this week. We're recording the movie review, so we're getting that ready. That'll drop next week. And of course, you can also check out patreon.com/RussoTWC. You can get your daily fix or your daily weekly fix of Master Shoot Theater. So, we're talking family matters tonight. I was hoping if you're going to start, I know you were talking about doing montages or videos of Vince singing. Maybe you can start taking requests too. Like I was thinking it's a rare condition with my pants down on my waist, something like Family Matter style. We could get
that. Yeah, usually what happens is to be a Patreon subscriber, which I appreciate absolutely for Master Shoot. But people know that what happens on Raw and SmackDown review, and it's not like we set this up. I'm taking in information that whole time. So things that happen on Raw and SmackDown review and the stories of where our conversation go kind of influence the opening of Master Shoot Theater. Of everything I've listened to, I'll get a song in my head that might relate to that or be an offshoot of that. So that's the same as in an improv scene saying, hi, we are the Impact Attack. Can we get a suggestion of anything at all? Boom, we get that suggestion. And then we start flushing out all these ideas and themes in a group game. The group game is Raw and SmackDown review. The first scene is what I pluck out of there, put in a song, and then turn it into Vince.
I just want a Vince McMahon and EP or a full album of you doing. Now that's what I call Vince McMahon with such his.
Yeah.
Holy night.
Vince McMahon's history of wrestling, and then through the eyes of Vince, singing it all.
As you know, as this week as you fuckers know, goddamn well, it was my 55th birthday. Well, no, it was my 75th, but we're gonna say it was my 55th birthday again, and I was doing hey, is your birth, pal? Yeah, it's my birthday too. Yeah, your pants on the ground now. Birthday suits for everybody over there on patreon.com. Russo's TWC. So we're having a good time.
Your primer. There's your primer there, guys. Go sign up. $3 a month. You can at least get Master Shoot Theater. And I got to tell you, my other favorite show there, honestly, on the Russo Patreon is the Nitty Gritty Show. I really like that show with Russo and Billy Body. It's a good show.
Yeah, man. Billy's got some good inside contacts and interesting looks. When you want to see Jesus talk about wrestling, that's a good way to tune in. But we're glad you're tuned in here at the Impact Attack WHMG. Follow us, Hamin Media Group, on YouTube, hackerhamin.podbean.com, haminmediagroup.podbean.com. Infidels, for keeping it fancy, Theodore Fancy himself. Chime the bell. It's caviar time for all of us. MSG, I'm going to come down there, take that mattress away. So you better get your push-ups in. Yeah, you better get going. That's it, because it's Hacker Hamin, heels over strong infidels all day long on your Impact Attack. Yo.